this morning involving Bill Belichick and all of these reports swirling yesterday, even going so far as to say that the school and the coach are engaged in negotiations to lower his buyout. It got loud enough that Belichick and the school released statements yesterday. Belichick saying, I'm fully committed to UNC football and the program that we're building here. The AD, Bubba Cunningham, saying Coach Belichick has the full support of the Department of Athletics and the university. I'm not disputing the truth of either of those statements, but generally speaking, when you have to say things like that, it is as much an indication of the problem as anything else. And so Josh Pate joins us as he does every Thursday with the Bussin guys and Dan here.
Friend of the show.
Josh, we've been talking about the Belichick thing all morning long. We've given our perspective. What's yours?
Well, I think we can go back in history and see what the vote of confidence normally means. Sometimes, Greeny, it looks like the stars have aligned and a great hire happens and there's rah-rah and everything's going to be great. I want to stress to the viewers that don't watch a lot of college football, that was never the case. Most people who observe college football on a ground level looked and said, do what? And you need to understand how convoluted and how big a mess the hiring process was there to begin with. The very athletic director there that's having to put out that statement had his head gone above in order to make the hire to begin with. So there are people even in that statement that didn't really have Bill Belichick as their first choice. This is not going to end well. It was never going to go well. One of the dumbest things I heard anyone say in this whole process is, well, Belichick should be okay in college football because college football is just like the NFL now. When you said that, if anyone said that, at that point, I just turned the volume down on your opinion, because at that point, you really displayed you had no clue what the actual landscape of college athletics is like for the head coach at the University of North Carolina.
So how does it end, Josh? What is your perspective? What is your expectation of how this ends?
I highly doubt he's the head coach there in 2026. I can't find many people up and down the Atlantic Coast Conference that would privately indicate they think he's going to be back. None of them have said anything publicly, because publicly they love seeing North Carolina in a state of flux, because North Carolina's been sort of that evergreen sleeping giant type program. No one in the ACC wants North Carolina to get its football act together. And at this point, look, if you hire him and you pay him $10 million, you're not just paying him to be more of what North Carolina already has been. Just be real. Let's call it like it is. You're paying him to get them to playoff caliber status, which means you got to out-recruit Miami for some kids or Clemson for some kids, because it's not just out-recruiting. Like, you got to out-recruit them and then out-develop and then out-scheme on game day. And you're not doing all that at North Carolina unless you give yourself an edge. They haven't given themselves any edge, and I think it'll be a clean slate come 26.
Missouri, the Tide, a 3.5-point favorite. Are you putting Alabama on upset alert this week?
I'm not even sure it's that big an upset, Greeny. It's just a good football game here. I mean, we got a field goal or such line. I think that all the fears Bama folks had about facing Georgia should actually be applied to this game, because unlike Georgia, Missouri can get after the quarterback. So again, copy paste. If Ty Simpson's given time to throw, he will eat against the Missouri secondary, just like he did against Georgia. My concern is maybe he doesn't have that time to throw, and maybe Missouri's ground game gets cranking. I leaned Alabama in this thing. It is very slight. This is not an upset if Missouri wins to me.
What do you think, guys?
Oh, I think Alabama's going to run away with this game. If you look at who Alabama's played compared to who Missouri's played, the best win that Missouri has is South Carolina, who's no longer ranked, and they won that game 29-20. They got two elite wide receivers that are going to be able to push the ball down the field. And Ty Simpson, I tell you what, buddy,
he's a guy
talks about that, keeps that ball high up. He keeps it up here.
That's a guy playing himself into first round.
Absolutely.
Conversation as well.
We have these conversations on the podcast on First Draft every
runs
week.
away with it? No.
He
talks about the pass rush. You got Ahmad Hardy, the best running back in the country right now. And also, it's like Alabama, two very emotional wins against Georgia, Vanderbilt, late night primetime games. You got to get up. Columbia, Missouri. I think they're in a tough spot. I do think they sneak away with the win at the end. It'll take them a minute to wake up, but Missouri is a tough football team.
Don't be surprised when it's a double-digit win for Alabama.
Started the season the number one team in the country, and they still haven't beaten a Power 4 team. And yet, all of the conversations we've been having here are that Arch Manning is playing way better than most people are assessing it to be. Josh Pate, what's your opinion?
Texas offensively has been pathetic so far. Arch Manning's just been the face of that. Their tailbacks, I believe, had 9 carries for less than 15 yards against Florida. He's been pressured on something like 38 of 72 of his dropbacks against Florida and Ohio State. So I ask, which quarterback in the country is thriving in that situation? So is Arch partly to blame? Yeah. Are those offensive linemen partly to blame? Are those tailbacks partly to blame? Their wide receivers can't get separation. I don't think they have the speed in that room, candidly, that they did a year ago. Here, there's somebody on that desk, and I don't want to name names, that called me a Texas hater last week for picking Florida. Ding, we were right on that. It's not hate, it's just truth. I'm going to take Texas to win this week, which has precipitated me being called a Longhorn homer. I just think it's a back against the wall moment. And despite all the deficiencies, you're Texas, man. You're a scholarship offensive lineman at Texas. You are on scholarship and being paid tons of money on top of that to tote the rock at Texas. At some point, there's got to be pride in performance. And if it's ever going to happen, I think it happens in Dallas against Oklahoma.
Talk to him, Josh. You see that vein coming out.
Vein coming out. No lies, though. No lies.
The opposing quarterback is John Mateer in this rivalry game. He's trying to come back from this injury early to play in the game. He was a guy we were talking about for the Heisman and maybe even being a high draft pick as well. Those things are still, I suppose, in order. Let's put the picks up on the screen. What do we think, Texas, Oklahoma?
Yeah, I like Oklahoma in this game for all the reasons that Josh Pate said why Texas is struggling. Brent Venables' defense, I had to witness it firsthand with my Michigan Wolverines. He has the ability to put these quarterbacks in a pretzel. You see with the lack of production with the running back and the offensive line giving up a lot of pressure. I can see Oklahoma keeping this one tight if John Mateer doesn't play.
I like Texas no matter if Mateer plays or not. Josh Pate, anti-Texas guy, he called me after the game, asked, hey, Willie boy, what are you going to do this next week? I'm like, we got to go with the wounded animal. They're in desperation
Loves
mode.
the wounded animal.
Yeah.
Danny, how
Texas.
about it? And your opinion on Arch, too. I mean, you agreed with everything Josh said, I can tell.
Arch Manning is going to be the #1 pick in the 2027 NFL draft, and I've never felt better about that than I did watching this past week.
27, so to be clear. Not this year, next year.
Give him
Heard it.
He's custom made for the NFL game. Let's be very clear about Texas. It's probably as big a roster width that we've had in years. It's arguably the worst offensive line in the SEC. They don't have a tailback that's a difference maker right now. Their best receiver is a redshirt freshman named Parker Livingstone. This is not a very good football team.
Greeny, can you talk to me about Dylan Raiola and the Huskers?
Get Pate on the get Pate on the plane next week and get him up here next Thursday. Pate, outstanding work. Thank you. And here's our SEC. Saturday SEC on ABC triple header. We got Alabama, Missouri. Everyone says toss-up game. Red River Rivalry. Oklahoma, Texas. Fascinating. Primetime Georgia, Auburn.
You want this, you got that. No way, watch them walk right past you. Run fast while you have the chance. Don't speak, let them look right at you.